fuck it, we reacted to this too. This is the main problem with League of Legends right now. Okay, I want to see what this guy has to say.
League of Legends has been in a period of heavy stagnation throughout 2025 so far, despite Season 15 doing its best to shake things up with the new approach they've taken regarding Noxus and Ionia themes, as well as the inclusion of the new Otacon and Vita Strength objectives. Public attitude towards the game has never been this low. Viewership is down.
It's true. I think everyone thinks NA is dying and that not many people are playing, but I think it's going strong in EU and Korea.
Across all platforms, YouTube and Twitch, the game has seen a noticeable drop in monthly active players, and even pro play has been losing viewership. Previously, LCS and LEC would get concurrence in the 6-figure mark. Now, LTA as it's called, struggles to barely reach.
Dude, LTA is dead, bro. 100%. This thing is dead, not coming back, I think.
20k. EU is doing a bit better in this department thanks to the help of Casual, but I think it's safe to say League is starting to really suffer not just in viewing interest, but also player interest. Granted, the game is nowhere close to being dead. You could still queue up and get into a game reasonably quickly, but compared to how ubiquitous the game was back in the 2010s and during the pandemic, this has to be the worst condition I've ever seen League in. A variety of factors are at play when it comes to League's decline over the past few years. In my Why No One Plays episode on it, I talked about all the company decisions they made that backfired spectacularly, but that's not what we're going to be addressing today. I want to focus more on the gameplay aspect of things and how that's also been contributing to the game's progressive downfall. Today we'll be discussing the current biggest problem affecting League of Legends. I want to start off by saying obviously there's a lot more than just one problem that has resulted in the game going to over the past few years. A multitude of issues have been festering for quite some time now, like how game quality has been degrading each passing year. Nowadays, it feels as if the outcome of a match is determined not by whichever team has the better players, but whichever has the teammate who mental booms and crashes out first.
Wow, look at my last game. Why did we lose, guys? Why did we lose? Where's the scoreboard here? Oh, that's crazy. Can anyone spot the... It's all good.
First, while they are of course important to consider, it's not like they haven't always been in the game. Feeders and toxicity were present back in the 2010s too. I want to pay attention to something that's notably unique about this time period though. That being the notion that League has been the same for the past 3 years.
It has not been the same. Back in the day, I had an Inter. I didn't give a fuck, bro. I 1v9 and win anyways.
Opinion anyway. Nothing has really changed within the game on a drastic level for a while. Even though champions have been getting adjusted, new items have come and gone, and we even got new objectives and so on, the overall feel of the game has been at a standstill since like 2023.
Yes.
Back when I reviewed the Season 15 changes, I couldn't help but notice how bland it felt. Visually speaking, it was excellent that Riot was finally changing up Summoner's Rift to fit a Noxian theme and then later an Ionian theme. But when I saw the patch notes of 15.1, it came off kind of bare bones.
Nothing changed.
There were only 4 notable changes to the game. Otacon beats of strength, respawning Nexus turrets, and the changes to teleport.
Bro, there's basically nothing, guys.
That is all. Don't get me wrong, Otacon was a big deal, evidenced by how many times it had to get nerfed, and the feats of strength finally gave us tier 3 boots, although only for one team. But 15.1 just didn't have the same game warping feel as the new season updates of past years. I was under the impression that since they were splitting the year up into 3 parts, maybe they would do something big for the second and third split so that the bulk of 2025 would be evenly distributed instead of all at once. But after seeing the Ionian update and finding out all they really did
0 updates
was change Otacon, I was underwhelmed by how little there was. It was hyped up to be this big expansion on the same level.
Yeah, Otacon changed, kind of. Can't even tell, I'm not gonna lie.
As the Noxus update, but new game mode aside, it came off like just another patch. Though 2025 was the biggest offender so far, 2024 was also kind of mellow for a new season update. We got void grubs, minor structural changes to the Rift, and some new items, but there wasn't a whole system revamp or anything like that.
The game just feels the same, man.
Quite the opposite, mythic items got taken out. 2023 was also kind of barren. Being the last year of mythics, we got some new items like Jakshul, Radiant Virtue, Heartsteel, Rod of Ages came back, Jungle got a quality of life update, and they reinstated the Chemdrake. But the essence of the game felt like the exact same as the year before. Altogether, 2023 didn't feel too different from 2024, which didn't feel too different from 2025.
I hard agree, okay? Type 1 if you agree, type 2 if you think, nah, you felt like there were big changes.
A number of you might disagree that seasons 13 and 14 were small for a new season, so out of consideration for that, let me give you examples of past seasons that fundamentally altered League of Legends. The most recent example would assuredly have to be mythic items being introduced in 2021.
Massive fucking change. Massive fucking change.
What made this so impactful was that it presented a complete and total overhaul of one of the most integral mechanics in the game, items. I'm not talking half a dozen, I'm talking quite literally every item in the game got changed more or less. Not just that, but we had a brand new class of items, mythics, containing items that shaped your playstyle to a huge extent. For instance, it was the first time AD carries and bruisers had a dash item. There hasn't been an item overhaul
Jesus.
this big in like forever. The whole shop UI had to get changed, and players spent the first month of preseason basically relearning the game on account of every single champion having to reconfigure their builds. Those are the kind of changes that made preseason so exciting. Even though solo queue rankings did not matter throughout this time.
Even if mythics were like a disaster, in my opinion, it was still like an exciting change.
What kept it fresh and dynamic was all the stuff we had to playtest and experiment. The craziest part is, relative to other preseasons, the mythic item system was actually near the bottom in scope, which really goes to show you how different every new year of the game was, and all the more reason why League feels so stagnant today. Season 10 may not have had that many adjustments in the item and champion department, but what it did bring was a full expansion to the Dragon objective in the form of the Dragon Soul.
Is crazy.
The advent of Dragon Soul as well as the new superpowered Elder Dragon buff would change the late game experience of the game thereafter because of how massive those buffs were. Permanent global stat increases of that caliber were never seen before in the history of the game. If you take a look at Dragon Soul,
honestly, I think it's less about the stats and whatever and more about Soul equal GG.
Of them, it may as well be a 7th item. The new Elder Dragon buff may have single-handedly lowered the average game time of all matches after 2020. When the community found out that Elder Dragon could execute below 25% health, people were going crazy. Before Season 10, objectives would have a measurable impact. However, you could still overcome them through calculated play or hunkering down until the temporary ones expired. But Dragon Soul and Elder Dragon gave you such an overwhelming lead that it would only be a matter of time before you lost. Statistically, the team with Dragon Soul averages an 80 to 90% win rate. It's nearly impossible to come back from. So even though 2020 didn't have that many changes in quantity, the new features they brought in completely warped our understanding of the mid to late game and made dragons go from an optimal thing you could skip a couple of to priority number 1. Think of the present day and how many teams get anxious when the enemy team has 3 dragons and the 4th one is coming up. Were it not for Dragon Soul, that wouldn't be as big of a cause for concern. Arguably the largest updates I've ever seen made to the game would have to be Seasons 5 through 7. I say 5 through 7 because technically these changes happened over the course of 2 years. In a given patch, the most number of champions you'd see getting updates to their gameplay beyond the realm of buffs and nerfs is at most like 3. Even mid-scope updates don't come too often, which is why the class updates from 2015 to 2017 were so unprecedented. From version 5.16 to 7.9, approximately half the roster got reworked in some shape or form. Not just small adjustments either,
like
a number of them were
right?
significantly changed. Beginning with the Juggernaut update in 5.16, we had 4 major changes and 1 minor. Then the Marksman update in 5.
I don't know if you guys were alive. Play the game for that, but the Juggernaut at Worlds is crazy.
5.22 saw retrofits to virtually the entire 80 carry roster. Caitlyn, Corki, Graves, Kog'Maw, Misfortune, and Quinn got the big ones, while the remaining were given small ones. 6.9 had the mage update, focusing on Brand, Cassiopeia, Malzahar, Vel'Koz, Vladimir, and Zyra, with minor updates given to 8 others.
I feel like these changes are not as big as like the mythics, you know what I mean?
They then wrapped up with the Assassins in 6.22, then Tanks in 7.9. For 2 years, they spent every preseason and midseason reworking champion movesets for upwards of half a dozen at a time. When that many cast members get simultaneously changed, especially categorically, you're essentially playing a brand new game all over again. When EDCs got mixed up in preseason 6, you had to learn all their new quirks and stuff. Mid lane was changed a ton following the mid-season mage update. Then jungle, as well as Min once again, changed during the Assassin update. By the time you settled into all the new things, Riot came in with even more new things. Again, the mid-season update was almost as big as the preseason ones, giving players 2 things to look forward to per year. The .9 of each year was usually around May, right as players were entering summer break or the tail end of their school semester.
That's so true. The preseason was a change, the mid-season was a change, and then now we have no change? No change.
That was an optimal time for players to look forward to all the new content that they had to pick up. The bottom line is, League was changing on a fundamental level every season, keeping it fresh and exciting, albeit sometimes overwhelming. 2015 to 20...
I don't know if you could say like champion-specific changes, even if by class was like a fundamental change, but it did like change a lot of the champions. Like Caitlyn, like old Caitlyn was way different. Like I don't know about you guys, but old Caitlyn was like way different than what today's Caitlyn is. Same like Tristana. Tristana's E was like a DOT and stuff. So I guess it did kind of fundamentally. It's like, I don't know, a lot of individual champion changes.
2020 was characterized by innovation and, more importantly, fearlessness. Riot did not care what the consequences of their ambitious changes were. They were focused on doing big things every half a year for better or worse to maintain a dynamite experience of the game, and it worked. In my opinion, the golden years of League were during that time. For all the complaints people had about tank meta, Ardent Sensor meta, ADC in 2017, what have you, I can't think of a time when people were more excited to tune into LCS, watch streamers for hours on end, and every top league YouTuber pulling easily high 6 to low 7 figure views per video without even trying. Despite
damn.
how random it felt like Riot was doing all these changes over the years, to some extent they knew what they were doing. There was a huge focus on modernization, abandoning their previous outdated conventions of champion and game design and giving everything a fresh coat of paint. New items every season, new champion kits every season, BGUs coming out and receiving just as much attention and hype as actual new champions. Speaking of which, Riot was less concerned about making champions that sold skins or were overloaded, choosing instead to try all sorts of wacky ideas, whether they did or didn't turn out well. You had Bard, Echo, Tahm Kench, Kindred, Alawi, Jhin, Aurelion Sol, Talia, Clan, Ivern, Xayah, Rakan.
Great
It wasn't
champions.
until late 2017 when they started to pump out the stupid champs like Kayn, Pre-Nerf Ornn, Kai'Sa, Pyke, etc. They
Stupid
didn't
champs,
care.
bro.
They just wanted to innovate and try new things, a stark
Stupid champs,
contrast
bro.
to how things feel now. The biggest mid-season update we had since 2022 was the durability patch, but all that did was make champions tankier. We haven't had the same groundbreaking updates as we did during the first decade.
It's true. It's
For
true.
most of the second decade, I feel like Riot's been playing things too safe. Anytime they make changes, it comes off in a way that's more contained in scale or an accessory to an already established mechanic. They only rework or update 1 or 2 champions at most, or just a couple items, not 15 at one time. Adding new objectives like Otacon feats and Void Grubs may appear to give off the same
It didn't actually change anything. Like this Grubs, Otacon, and Feast didn't actually change anything. You know what I mean?
impact as Dragon Soul and whatnot, but the reason they don't is because none of them really change the central experience of the game. Void Grubs makes it more convenient to take towers, but it's not like a team with all grubs pushes that much further than a team without. Rune
Yeah, exactly.
Otacon offers a big stat boost that compounds the effects of other objectives, but taking Otacon without any objectives is basically just an extra 25 or so adaptive force and half a level.
I don't even know that. I don't even notice AD. I didn't even know it gave AD, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
Though it did get nerfed, it was always treated as an objective that people take when there's nothing else to do while waiting for Baron. As for Voracious Otacon, they never should have added it to the game. Losing a Ruinous Otacon though doesn't carry the same repercussions as a Baron or Dragon Soul.
GA.
Not that it needs to be. Having too many game-winning objectives is part of why League is extremely stressful to play these days. But therein lies the problem. The gameplay team is only building off their current foundation rather than trying to do crazy new stuff that makes the player base have to figure out the game in new ways. A prominent discussion topic as of late has been whether or not the removal of mythic items was a good decision. Some are even going so far as to say League was better off with it still being in the game as
No, fuck mythics.
opposed to without. When you consider how many egregious metas we had like the Stridebreaker meta, Chemtank meta, Divine
Disgusting.
Sunder meta, Sunfire meta, Goredrinker meta, Prowess Claw meta, Dustblade
It's a
meta,
fucking problem,
Everfrost
bro.
meta, and so on, the notion that people want it back may sound absurd, but it's not so much that people literally want mythics back, more that people miss the days when the game was unpredictable and dynamic. In essence, a non-negligible amount of people want sweeping changes on a grand scale even if it might lead to stupid more than
Yeah, I want something to change,
Riot
man.
playing it safe and not doing a whole
Variety is the spice of life. You know? It's like a relationship. Like, let's say, like, you guys just do the same thing every day, day in, day out, and nothing's changing, bro. Isn't that boring?
lot. It might seem counterintuitive to want League of Legends to flip upside down twice a year when the goal is to master the game and consistently climb, but I've been told that more and more people are switching to TFT and Arena not only
Dude, because TFT changed this shit, man.
because they're more fun to play, but also because those game modes have been getting the same content updates that League used to. In
Yes!
Arena, there's an absurd new thing happening every single
Everyone at League, I swear to God, went to TFT. Or Valorant, or whatever, bro. Like, dude, the TFT experience is amazing. It's literally like new sets, completely different. Even this TFT set had like crazy changes to items that have been in the game since day one. Rageblade just got removed basically and turned into Navori Quickblade, an artifact. It's like they're getting the changes that we want in League.
single week, it seems. League, on the other hand, has remained more or less the same throughout this entire time. If you quit back in Season 4 and came back in Season 7, you had to relearn the game because of how different it was, but if you quit back in Season 12 and came back now, I would argue it's still recognizable for most players. The question is, however, can Riot even make that many changes? A popular video released back in 2017 or 2018 if I can recall was from Doublelift on the downsides of a constantly changing game, in which he underscored how exhausting it is to keep up with all that Riot was doing throughout that time.
That's a pro player though,
For
right?
the most part, I agreed with the sentiment that Riot needed to slow down a bit, especially when it came to champions being buffed and nerfed too much, as well as new champions being the overloaded messes they were. Logically speaking, they finished updating the majority of the roster, so there's no reason to keep updating anymore, right? Somewhat, but even then there's still more things they can do that won't necessarily feature creep the game. Or frankly, maybe they should. I feel like Riot's only hope in restoring interest to League is by doing something completely out of left field. Maybe half a dozen features at once instead of one every 3 years, or perhaps a complete reimagining of Summoner's Rift, making a brand new map or something. Voice chat
Just
even,
do
anything to
something,
convince
bro.
players that
I
League
don't
has
care.
changed. some new direction or initiative that
Literally
paints a new
anything,
future
bro.
for the game rather than preserving the status quo. The fact that more players are excited for the new game mode and more players are moving to Arena or
Yeah,
TFT or
Nidhogg.
quitting the game and playing something else means it's not just the toxicity of the game that's responsible for
This
this
is true.
gradual exodus. People
This
might
is
just
true.
be bored of the game.
It's the
New
fucking
changes will
gameplay,
bring
man.
them back for maybe a month or two, but then they go right back to whatever they were doing before since League has gone back to what it was before. Going for something as risky as a new Summoner's Rift might not be possible due to red tape, so I suppose the lowest risk highest reward would be to go back to sweeping gameplay changes. Maybe, I don't know, make an elemental
Runes.
Baron. In Season 14 they made 3 distinct Barons, but those Barons all give the same buff. Perhaps different Baron buffs for different Barons would be a place to start. Another option
Just
would be
do
to speed up
something.
the VGU project and finally update those old champions. Though I do understand why it's not a popular course of action financially speaking. It doesn't matter at this point, Riot has to do something big. Other creators
agree.
are talking about it and the players are talking about it too.
I agree,
The
please,
sooner
man.
and bigger they do it, the better.
Please, man.
So what do you guys think about all
My
this?
life
Do you
depends
agree
on
or
it.
disagree with my points? If you disagree, let me know in the comments why, and if you
100%
agree,
agree.
what are some ideas you have in mind? I'd love to hear them. For the time being though, if you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at VarsFarum, join my
Bro, I 100% agree, bro. They gotta do something, man. My literal career and life depend on this. Bro, I'm like about to go to TFT, man. Like TFT is fun. They change stuff. I feel like it's the way, man. And like even the patches they have for that game, it's like, oh, one comp gets nerfed and I have to learn a new comp. It's like I feel like I get to learn the ins and out of a new comp. You know what I mean? This is like we've had the same thing for years now. It's kind of crazy. I don't know, man. I maybe some of his points did 100% agree. Like some of the specific champion changes, I didn't think it was like that big or anything like that, but I do agree that Riot Games just feels like they're either not doing anything, like what do we have all this staff for? Honestly, like how much has the game actually changed? It feels like Riot is just trying to make money, but not make the game better. I think that is, from my opinion, okay. Because of like okay, we want to send you guys like $500 skins. You don't have to buy it, but like this is what we're working on. Like this is the gotcha $500 skins, and like you're like, okay, sure, that's cool. You do need money to fund the company and everything, but what, like we're not going to work on the game, or what's going on here? You know, that's how it feels, at least. Okay, I'm not saying that's how it is. I'm saying that's how it seems from a player perspective. Right? Like, I don't mind that you have to, like, monetize and stuff. But if the only news I've heard in the last year and a half is $500, like, Faker skin, and then Otacon Void Grubs that, like, and like, the feats of strengthening that doesn't actually, like, do anything. Like, I don't know. I don't know, man. Anyways, let's go queue up.